I have the incredible privilege to be sitting down with a man that I love, somebody who has become a dear brother and a dear friend to me, um, Pastor Rafael Kajjubi of King Jesus Church in Busega, Uganda, outside of Kampala. And he is live and in living color right here with us. And so, through the magic of technology, we're together today. Rafael, welcome, brother.
Thank you so much, Rick, for having me and all of your friends that are listening to this podcast. I love you
Man,
dearly.
I love you too, and I my only regret is that I'm not sitting next to you because I would love to be there and be hanging out with you. We've been talking for a while here and just got warmed up, but just by way of introduction, I'll let Raphael tell his own story. But he's become a dear brother and a dear friend, and we've now known each other for what, probably 13,
I
14
think so.
years, something like that,
Yeah.
and have seen a lot of ministry and a lot of life over that time. And my respect for him, my love for him has just continued to grow. And so I've been really, really excited about this conversation. So, brother, take us back to the beginning. So you grew up in Uganda
Mm.
in a time that was, Uganda experienced a civil war that
Mm.
changed things dramatically. AIDS was a thing that impacted the lives of many people and really took the lives of a lot of men
Yeah.
in your culture. What was it like to be a boy in a land that had lost so many of its men?
Thank you, Rick, and everyone listening. You know that specifically I was born 2 years before Idi Amin, one of the worst presidents probably in the
Mm,
history of the world, was still president. For at least I was alive for 2 years up until
mhm,
he was born. But see, what many people never realize that when Idi Amin was taken out, nearly the country was taken out because everything was destroyed at that time. Business was destroyed, education was destroyed, health systems were destroyed. Everything that can make a society was destroyed. So many men had been killed because of the civil wars. And then, in the chaos of that disorganized mindset, then men who rose up by that time only thought about how do I survive today? Like the whole society, just the mindset was survival.
mhm,
So nearly a whole generation of men got wiped out with AIDS. If the war didn't kill them, AIDS killed them.
yeah.
So that's a little bit about like personally where I had to come from. To put things in context, like in my situation, 1995 is a time nearly everyone was dying, or you could look everywhere and you would only see children becoming fathers and responsible.
Mhm,
In the early 90s, President Museveni had just become president, but 1986 is when he became president, and that's when the country is kind of rebuilding and forming up back up again. The army is young, the pastors are young, the society is all young, and it is 1995 that I personally get an encounter face to face with the hope of the gospel. 1990,
mm,
but I was too young to comprehend what it truly means to have a relationship with the Lord. So I kind of lost it between 1990. 1995, it was kind of rediscovered again. And I think God is good, but the fear of death, God used the fear because I was like, God, I could see all my contemporaries dying at 14, at
yeah.
15, at 20. We were burying people at that time. And I remember asking the Lord, God, if you're God, I know you're God, no one can question that. But if you ever spare my life and I do not die, the death I was so scared of at that time was the death of AIDS,
Mhm,
HIV.
sure.
I asked the Lord, if you would ever spare my life for the rest of my life, I would give my life to you. and I would serve you.
Hmm.
That's how I gave my life to Christ. I mean, discovered later I was a sinner. I was as broken. all, all that realization came later, but the fear of death was the thing God used to draw me into.
So coming to Christ in the mid 90s, the influence of the prosperity gospel on Africa was in its height, right? Like there was so much of the West that was beginning to pour money and influence and to transplant a version of the gospel that's built on people's need and satisfying the needs of people. So talk a little bit about that, about, the like what did that version of Christianity promise you? How did that fit within the time of of that part of your life and your country's life?
My situation and many others at that time was extremely desperate.
Mm.
And again, even the knowledge of the gospel was very limited. And so at that time, the prosperity gospel came and promised that you can have long life. They came and also said you can have your best life. They also came and said just by maybe giving a little bit more than where you are in your desperate situation, your life would change drastically. Like you would forget all your pain would be gone, and your life would turn around.
But it wasn't an uncomplicated time for you, right? You had a family at this point. Like you had a very stable life
Yeah,
in doing what you were doing, and yet God began to stir in your heart in a way that you could not stay still.
yeah.
So just tell us about that.
Do not know what's going on, but there's something within my heart that I don't think I can put away. I know there has to be a real walk with the Lord that is not on camera. There has to be a real walk with God's people that may not be fancy. There's got to be a real walk with the Lord and God's people and God's work. That you're not seeking someone to praise you, but that work is real. And when I see the Bible, I see what we have been doing. I, these two are contrary. I go to my big brother and I'm like, listen, it's been wonderful for us. I go to him, I'm like, you know, this is what is going on in my heart. I, I feel like there's going to be a walk that is real, that is in line with the scriptures. I don't feel like that's exactly what we are doing. I mean, my brother loves me with all his heart. He's like, no, maybe you're fatigued or something. How about you go to Dubai? Let's start something like this in Dubai. So I end up in Dubai. At that time, God definitely, in His sovereignty, used His providence, used Dubai to help me understand that scattered work and flamboyancy and just trying to prove to camera isn't where the real work is at. Real work is at doing what you must be doing and you must do, regardless of who is seeing or who is not seeing. Coming back from Dubai, I could not turn away, I could not take away that conviction that there's got to be a real walk with God and real walk with God's real people. But I didn't know what to do. I didn't know even where to begin from. So let me just let me see what the rest of the world looks like. So I will travel to Europe. I went to UK
Mm.
and was in London for some time, but still same thing. I couldn't turn away that thing. Then from the UK, I continued to come to the US. In my mind, thinking maybe the US is.
Well, surely the answer was here, right?
Let me see if the real people that are promoting prosperity really are leading a prosperous life.
Right, right.
So I was in the US for visited about 12 states and saw these fancy churches. That was my first time actually to open up to see There are these fancy churches on camera, but they are real churches with real people. That was a huge eye opener. With real people in the US that are doing real life, that are going through real realities of life themselves, but desires to live for God and serving God, not necessarily for camera. And Rick, that's how I connected with Lifeline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible. In God's providence, I marvel at stuff like this. You know, the way God orchestrated your life and your steps. I have a missionary friend that is a dear brother, and he reminds me often when I talk to him that the phrase God doesn't waste anything. And I think of that in your story just because of all of these steps along the way, even Dubai being an encounter with Islam that ultimately God used to point you to Busega and to, to give you a heart for a community where Islam was beginning to take over,
Yeah.
essentially. Um, okay, so let's talk about Busega, and then let's talk about there, and then we'll talk about how Lifeline became part of that. And so you come back from the UK, you come back from the US, you've spent time, and God's confronted you with the reality that people everywhere have needs. And the thing that they really need is they really need the gospel.
Yeah.
So what do you do? What's the next step?
I come back, and at that time, everyone of our pastors, our people that came to the US, either came back with loudspeakers or came back with a truck to go to the next village. Came back with a feeding program. Came back with something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I came back with books. Collected a couple books at a time.
It's dangerous. That's dangerous.
Explain the gospel. And at that time, actually, I had gotten a few books from David Platt. I just started, I think, writing the radical. John Piper, I don't remember what book he had written, but I collected all these books. And the first time I was like, I really, really, for the first time, I want to read it for myself.
Yeah.
I'd carried the systematic theology with me. So I sat down and I'm like, I want to start reading for I want to read it for myself. While I was doing that in our little house on our national TV, the a movement, I think it's based out of Saudi Arabia. It's called the King Fahad Foundation.
Yeah.
They made a big announcement that they have found a community. They call it a community. They found a community. It's kind of a forgotten slum, forgotten community out in Kampala. It's called Busega. And they said, we are going to go into this community. We are going to build schools, hospitals, warehouses, and kind of give life to this community. So I'm watching. I remember that. I cannot say it was God. I don't know what it was, but I can remember it like as if it's happening right now. I remember turning to Alan and I said, watch. I said, listen, what if these people, the King Fahd Foundation, if these people plant themselves here, if God ever gives us an opportunity, we should plant ourselves right next to them.
What's funny about that is, folks, that you have to see where King Jesus Church is now. And the truth is that's exactly what God did. And I think it's always remarkable to me when I hear you tell your story of how much good books can really mess up a man's theology.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You spent a little time with Wayne Grudem and John Piper and David Platt, and before we know it, God's giving you a heart for a slum outside of Kampala, and and when you saw Busega, you saw a lot of hurting and broken people.
Yeah. Yeah. And the predominant hurting and broken people, not only were people broken poverty, and now Islam is coming in, and it's filthy and dirty. Just You know what I'm talking about. And now, on top of that, there are these people. Not only are they, I mean, everybody near is poor,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
now even amongst the poor, there are this category who are categorized as good for nothing. In our
Yeah.
language, they used to call them kasim. This is the same as good for nothing in the Uganda language,
Yeah.
who are deaf and blind, because those then were considered outcasts. The gods are not happy with them. If possible, either bury them alive, good for nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so here we are coming in, kind of beginning to understand who Christ is. What does it mean to walk with him? What does it mean to walk with your people? And then right about that time, that's when, out of the many visits I made to the US, I visited a family out of Birmingham of the Christians. And so the woman, her name is, we call her Mama Kim here in Busega. So Mama Kim writes to me and says, Rafael, Herbie,
Yeah.
the president of Lifeline is actually coming to Kampala. He's going to be at the Sheraton. Uh, if you have chance, meet him. Now, in my wildest mind at that time, I'm reminded of all the Americans that we had worked with, and I'm thinking this so-called president of Lifeline, if he comes downtown, my friend is going to ask me how many kids we can accommodate, what kind of
Mm-hmm.
lights we can put in their rooms, what kind of beds we are going to be able to put, how many can you gather in 1 week, and I'm out of politeness to the Christian beliefs, I'm like, I will go and meet the guy. But having seen the struggles in Busega, I'm like, no American, no American should be encouraged. No American should be encouraged to even look at this depravity. Look at this pain. Because
Yeah.
anyone that can just play with this pain will destroy beauty, will destroy worship to the glory of God forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I went to meet Happy. He gives me a warm hug, like as if he has ever seen me. And then he asked me a question: what is in the heart of King Jesus that Lifeline can come alongside in a small way?
Yeah.
Number one, I'm going, one, Mama Kim maybe deceived me. He's not American. Maybe he came from another country and he was given an American passport or something.
Because you never had an American that had asked for
No,
anything in a small
no,
way.
no.
Fill out a report and tell me how many kids, right?
How many kids are you able to reach on a weekly basis? What did you do with them? How many games did you play with them? And please write,
Yeah.
send back the report. Yeah.
Right. Right.
So number that was like I was taken back on my chair. I'm going, really? Which American ever asked this question? Now, in my mind, I'm thinking I'm going to turn him off. So I'm like, if you have time, how about we leave Sheraton and I take you to this community? There are people that are in the heart of King Jesus. That if we had an opportunity, we'd be glad to reach there. I borrowed a car from a neighbor and then we went to the Sheraton to drove
Yeah.
Abby back to Busega. And then we were able to visit, not 100, we were able to visit 4 families that had these deaf
Yeah.
kids. So Habi comes back to Birmingham, and the next line of email is, Rafael, we've been praying as Lifeline and thinking about King Jesus Church. You guys are deeper in our prayers. If you can write back to us and guide us, anything that King Jesus Church ever desires to do to reach these deaf and blind. And there are 4.
Yeah.
We would be
Yeah.
happy
4
to follow.
kids.
And never worry about increasing this number for us. If you feel like you are only going to reach the 4 for the rest of your time in Busega, God bless you, but please guide us.
Yeah.
I am Rick. I'm reading this email and I'm crying,
Mm.
and I'm crying. I'm crying out to the Lord. I'm saying, God, you're real. God, you're true. They are real people. They are real churches. They are real believers. I didn't know this world exists, but thank you, Lord. Forgive me for my presumptuous thinking. And Lord, I repent
Yeah.
today. Please, God, you're real.
So a couple of things I just want to make sure folks understand in your story. Number one, the conviction, the theological conviction that was driving you was these kids are created in the image of God,
Yeah,
and yet they have no way to communicate.
yeah,
If they're deaf in the circumstance that they were in, um, they didn't they didn't know language. They didn't know how to communicate with the people around them. They didn't know that they had a name. For a lot of them, they didn't even people didn't call them by their name. They used the Ugandan word for fool, right? Like it was there was this idea that they were somehow, less than human, and really simply what Herbie said to you is just what we believe here at Lifeline, that our role is to come alongside local churches that are trying to care for and to bring the gospel to bear in the lives of vulnerable children and the families that are around them, but to do it in a way that is consistent with God's vision for that church in that community.
hmm
Not a
hmm
one size fits all program, not a strategy in a box, but in a way that honors that God has called you and God's given you a vision. We have some things that we can do to come alongside and help. God has continued to bless, and what began as a work for a school for 4 children to teach them to read and write and to communicate and to know sign language, and as a means to be able to share with them the gospel, has grown and flourished and transformed the life of your church and community.
Everyone was thinking, I mean, Pastor, we know you love God, but you were a young man, your family is young. If you tamper with the deaf, maybe the gods are going to destroy you and they're going to destroy this small church that you're beginning to plant in the community. Moving forward, the Lord showed himself, continues to this day. God continues to show himself as a God for the vulnerable, for the destitute, for the desperate, for the left alone. When I think and tell exactly what God has done with these which began as for deaf and good for nothing children. Today, by the way, all these four plus the ones that we ever started out with in the beginning years are all either some are teachers in this their own school, some are seamstresses within
Mhm.
sewing in the world of sewing. Some are carpenters working in very good carpentry shops around Kampala. And some are married. One actually, we just did her wedding. She's a beautifully wedded woman by one of the other deaf person that works in one of our Busega warehouse. Yeah. But fast forward,
So cool.
today a proper school building has been erected for the continuity of his work. A proper church has been erected that is helping these people that were coming from this impoverished setting.
So yeah, let's don't go past that. Let's camp out there for a second, because truly what you moved into was a community. So in bringing the truth of the gospel, you've also, as you built a church, as you built a people, you've also built a place. And the place has really become the center of a lot of the community and the lives of people there, and people have been reached with the gospel. Families have been discipled, and generational curses are being broken. I remember, so I'm going to tell a story real fast, because I remember the first time that you and I met face to face, and I had come, and this was probably 14 years ago,
Mm,
13 years ago maybe. um but I'd come to Uganda, and we'd spent some time, and we were standing in the courtyard of the school.
mm,
And you probably don't remember this, but I remember it like it was yesterday.
mm.
We were talking first about one of the boys in the school, Mutebi,
Mm,
and his mother, who was the witch doctor
mm,
in the community. And we were talking about the fact that so many people in the community believe that you and the church were in danger
mm.
because you had Mutebi in the school.
Yeah.
And I just remember you laughing and saying, but they don't know that greater is he that is in me than he that's in the witch doctor. And there's like, I'm not scared. But then we were having that conversation, and all of a sudden you kind of turned around behind me, and you were talking over my shoulder, and you pointed and you said look at the gate and just watch. And I was standing there watching, and I didn't know what I was seeing.
Mm,
But there was a man that came up that had on a coat, and there was a boy in the courtyard. And that man came and got that boy, and he actually put him under his coat because it was kind of chilly, and they walked off together. And I didn't think a whole lot about it. And you said to me, "You know what you just saw? You just saw a father who had disowned his son
mm.
because he thought he was a curse, who now has believed the gospel to the point that he just came and picked him up from school."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so what the Lord has allowed you to be able to see in the building of a church and the building of a people, but also in just the force of the gospel transforming the lives of people that were walking in profound darkness, people that were, seeking after Allah, people that were seeking after, their own pleasure, people that were seeking after a way to believe so that they could get things.
Mm.
That into the middle of all of that, God planted King Jesus Church
Yeah.
to just proclaim the truth of the gospel. So Busega has continued to grow. You have this cohort of pastors that have been meeting together for 8 years and learning together and praying together and studying God's word together. But it's also transformed the community of many of those churches. One of the very first things that you did in the church building was to have an evangelism project for Busega that involved churches that were all over the community that came together. It was literally hundreds of people that
Mm.
came and met there and were trained and then went out and over several weekends shared their faith all over the city. It was remarkable to see. Just talk a little bit about what your community has become
Mm.
and just share your vision with us, brother.
Seated here, extremely thankful. Thankful for especially our partnership between King Jesus and Lifeline. I feel like the best picture of the role Lifeline plays of equipping the local church to manifest the gospel. I feel like
Mm,
our two ministries have met each other in a place of real brotherhood, locking
yeah,
arms and manifest doing life together, doing the gospel together, becoming friends, and just challenging one another. I'm hoping that in the years to come, God will continue to use this
yeah,
friendship and this partnership to model, to demonstrate, uh, in hope that the gospel will continue to prosper in different churches, to demonstrate what partnership can look like.
yeah. Well, and that's what we want. And I
Uh,
want to be really clear to the folks that are listening to the podcast that that's what we seek to do is to partner churches here in the US with partners all over the world, churches that are seeking to live the gospel and tell the gospel in their own community in their own way, but particularly in the lives of vulnerable children.
One of our biggest dreams and desire is that there are a number of well-discipled young men here
Mhm.
that we hope in the years to come they're going to be able to move on and plant these different works in different communities
That's right.
that are like prototype of Busega and continue to grow, continue to
Hmm.
flourish in families, or they'll
Hmm.
plant small businesses which will become like discipleship hubs or establish families or schools or these different entities with the same heart, same DNA, and
Yeah.
multiply in many
Well,
different places.
and because there are communities around Kampala and all over Uganda that are like Busega. And
Yes,
so there are opportunities to be able to take the gospel to all those places. We very much want to see that happen.
please.
Um, and I want to challenge the folks that are listening to us to be part of the prayer army that
Mm,
just ask God to give wisdom and to give direction to that effort.
yeah,
It's beautiful to see, but it's particularly beautiful to see when it is happening in the life of somebody that is a dear friend. I want you to know you've taught me so much about friendship and about real relationship and about real genuine bond. I just want to say to you, I appreciate your heart and your
uh,
example because you have taught that to me over and over and over the last 14 years, and it's been a beautiful privilege to learn.
very mutual. Same way. You, you brothers, the entire, you yourself in particular, Rick, you've helped me appreciate what it means to have a big brother friend that you can throw your thoughts, your concern, your anxieties to, and and you legitimately expect what the best counsel, real truth that is not making you feel like I'm a fool. But but being able to know I have a real brother that can point into my life.
Wow. Man, I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful for the folks that have joined us on this podcast. We're grateful that people would take their time to listen. And man, I just thank you for being a part of what's your story and telling us your story. And to the glory of God, we give this episode.